So I'm going up to an event hosted by Wilderness Torah, which is Sukkot out on an organic farm. And before signing up for this event, and even just a few hours ago, I had no idea what Sukkot was, what I was getting myself involved in. I just knew I was going to be on an organic farm that served fresh fruits and vegetables, yum, for my vegan lifestyle, and then I would be doing a work share, working in the kitchen, and also teaching yoga for 3 days, which I was very excited about. But, I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was participating in, to see if I can maybe incorporate that into my yoga class a little bit. So let me share with you a little bit of what I've learned, because it is extremely fascinating. To give you some perspective, we just finished Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in the Jewish holiday. And Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah represent the Jewish New Year. We say Shana Tova, right? And what's interesting about this is that this is a time of death, right? We think about death, like who shall live and who shall die. And I'm really quoting from my friend Sarah Abrams right now, who's a wonderful rabbi. She does a contemplative service at Temple Emmanuel a few times a month, and you should definitely check her out and seek her guidance. So she's provided me with this information, and also Rabbi Gaines, who's an amazing Kabbalah scholar, Gematria scholar, as well as a Chinese doctor and karate master. I know, quite an awesome combination. So anyways, let me give you some of this information. So we've just finished this new year, right? And what Sarah was saying was that, for this one period, that week between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we think about death, right? Sealing our fate in the gates of heavens, like whatever is written. But the rest of the rest of the year is our time to be reborn. It's a rebirth time. And what's super fascinating about this period right now, and forgive me again if I get any of these facts wrong, this is just what I've been told recently. During this period right now, we're in Sukkot, and Sukkot is the time of the harvest, right? It's a celebration of life. It's a time of our joy. And I'm going to get a little bit more into the meaning of all this. It's very interesting. There are a lot of pagan influences as well. But one thing to note is that the Jewish calendar corresponds to the zodiac calendar, right? So the new year doesn't fall in the first month of the year, but actually the 7th. Or right now we're in the 7th. We're in the time of Libra. And Libra is the first adult or mature sign in the zodiac. And what's interesting is that Libra time represents balance, harmony, right? And this is going to make a lot more sense as we keep going. But so now we get to Sukkot, right? And Sukkot is this time before Simchat Torah, for the time of the giving of the Torah, where we celebrate, I think, the rest of our year. We get to feast after our fate has been sealed, which I think sort of represents, whatever it is, hey, let's eat, laugh, drink, and be merry with Throwbone Boys, Claret and Sherry. Excuse me. So this is a very, very interesting thing. Okay, but now let's get into Sukkot for a little bit, right? So the meaning of Sukkot comes from the root Yitzka. Yitzka means to see. And part of it is we're supposed to see God in everything. Let me back up for a second. For all of the other mitzvah and laws outlined in the Torah, our limbs, our bodies are involved. For example, to give tzedakah, we have to walk over to the tzedakah box that's using our legs and our feet. We have to reach into our pockets, pull out some coins and put them in the box using our arms and our hands, not to mention our brain. Or for example, for wrapping tefillin, we have to use our arms and our hands, right? Our foreheads and our whole heads. And for blowing the shofar, we have to use our lungs, using our breath and our mouth and our tongue and our lips, all of it. So all of our limbs are involved. But in Sukkot, it's the one mitzvah, it's the one law of the Torah where everything is involved. We're being immersed and wrapped in God's arms, surrounded in the four directions by God's presence. Just by being in the Sukkot, we are covered in that divine grace and divine ease. Now, the numerical value of Sukkot is 91. Okay, what's interesting about this is that if you look at God's name of immanent and transcendent, of Adonai and Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, you'll notice something very peculiar. And part of the Sukkot ritual is integrating the above and the below. It's integrating the material and the immaterial. It's integrating the immanent, which is Adonai, which has the numerical value of 65, with Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, which is the transcendent, which has the numerical value of, guess what, 26. So together that equals 91. And what's interesting is that, again, this falls on the 7th month of the zodiac, the time of balance, the time of harmony, where we are harmonizing the above and the below. We're harmonizing our spiritual selves with our physical selves. We're harmonizing all aspects of God, that immanent aspect of God, all around us at every moment, and that transcendent aspect of God, which we just can never quite reach, but it's there. Now, another thing interesting to notice about the number 7 is that 7 is the crown. 7 is, I think it's called Keter in Kabbalah and the Sephirot, but it's the crown chakra, right? And the Sabbath, Shabbat, and someone actually liked this the other day when I walked them through it. It goes Shabbos, Shabbat, Sabbath. Most people don't realize that. Shabbos, Shabbat, Sabbath. Different names for the same thing, right? It falls on the 7th day of the week. And what's interesting about this being the 7th day of the week is that it's the crown of our week. It's the one day of the week that we don't work, right? Whereas Sukkot is now falling on the crown of the year. The crown of the entire year, which is an amazing thing, especially considering just last night, Courtney led it, I joined a manifestation circle to manifest what we wanted for this coming month, and I suggest you do the same thing. Figure out, well, what's your goal for this month? What would you like to happen for yourself? Think about it, and I'll return in the next clip. So now let's go back a second. We realize that Adonai is 65 and Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is 26, and this makes 91 Sukkot. And the root of Sukkot is Yitzka, which is to see God in all things. And we're told that Sukkot is a time to give love, to love our fellow man, our fellow woman, our fellow brother, sister, father, mother, friends, and see the divine within them. As we step into the sukkah, it wraps us around like arms. There's one opening, and the sides come around, and they're closed and hold us within it. So this is a very, very interesting time. And it's a time, I think, to celebrate. But then there's another aspect here that I think is extremely important. Is that, again, this is a time to reap what we've sowed a year ago, or whenever the season began, really. But we're also reaping right after our fate is sealed. Again, I mentioned this, but it's huge. Because we're basically coming to terms with our life. It's a very significant act to say, well, if we live, we eat. If we die, we eat. Either way, we feast. Either way, we enjoy our lives and we taste its sweetness. But as we pluck the ripe fruits of our labor, we also must think of what we're planting. Because that's what happens. Now is not just the time of the harvest, it's also the time of resowing new intentions, resowing new commitments, re-solidifying what we want for our lives and how we're going to go get it. So as you celebrate these few days, or if you've already celebrated these few days, think about what you're going to do now. Think about what the future holds for you. And if it's still early in the month while you listen to this, and even if it's not, even if it's late in the month, even if it's the last day of the month, you can still begin, because that's not the point. The point is just to do this practice. Come up with what you want. See it in front of you. Visualize it. And I really agree with what Courtney says. Draw it out if you can. Even if you're a bad artist, draw stick figures, just so you can see it in front of you, you can put it in front of you, and you can see it every day. Now, another thing that I suggest, if you can't draw and you have no inclination to, and I can't convince you to, find something that's symbolic of whatever it is that you would draw. So, for example, if you would draw a dog, instead find a picture of a dog and cut it out, or print it off the internet and put it on your wall so you can see it. If it's money, I remember Jack Canfield talking in The Secret how he put a dollar bill or a $20 bill that he'd written, I think, something like 20 million or 200 million on it, and posted it on his wall so he could look at it every day. To remind him that he wanted to make money, to put his intention there. And then guess what? Chicken Soup for the Soul came out and he made all that money and then some. Right? So it's really important to have these symbols and signs in front of us that will remind us of what we're trying to do. I have another video about checking in, and that's the point of it. I said, okay, well, look at your left index finger and then look at the nail of that finger and have that remind you that you need to check in, whatever your commitment is, to remind yourself to do it. So, for example, if it's I eat healthily, right, you remind yourself of that. Or let's just say if it was I am unconditionally loving, you remind yourself of that, because look, we get caught up in so many things during the day. It's so easy to forget that and move on with something else and not really get the results that we wish, right? Not because we're not able to, but just because we get swept up in the tide of things. And that's what distinguishes the people who are really successful from the people that aren't. The people that are successful can determine their own flow. They can mitigate and they can control energy that moves through us at every point. And this isn't just some new agey psychic mumbo jumbo. It's real energy, the energy of our thoughts, the energy that we expend working towards what we want or working towards things that have nothing to do with us. So again, remember what you're going to sow at this time. And remember also to celebrate whatever your fate is. Celebrate it. Right? Amor fati, as Nietzsche says. Amor fati. Love your fate. Much love and many blessings.